And John Runyon's the player on the left who is playing Grixis Twin. So we are in a Splinter Twin mirror match, and a Snapcaster Mage is on the stack. It's going to target a copy of Anticipate, and that will get remanded. Now, remand with flashback spells, would you like?
Well, the flashback completely replaces any other zone the card would go into. It is exiled, so remand is just dismiss against a flashback spell.
Perfect. Snapcaster Mage is going to come into the red zone. Passing the turn, Runyon with a lot of cards in his hand. Remand, a copy of Roast, Splinter Twin, Dispel. Might actually have a copy of Pestermite too. Patrick going to cast a Serum Visions. Of course, he'll draw a card, and now Scry too.
And the blue mirrors in Modern are very much about land drops.
Yeah.
Because of Remand, Spell Snare, Spell Pierce, Cryptic Command, Snapcaster Mage, all these are cards that demand a lot of mana and are less effective against a lot of mana as well. And so you have to feel like Patrick, you know, we're just hopping into this game, so we don't know for sure, but Patrick's making a lot more land drops, and it feels like he's probably advantaged right now.
Here's the Deceiver XR. The scary thing about this twin deck, though, is it can kill you out of nowhere. Dickmann does have the land advantage right now. That's a Lighthouse, the land that's tapped. See if Runyon has any interest in trying to go for it here. He does have a Dispel in his hand, so he's got a little bit of protection. He just drew his 5th land, too. But how aggressive do you get in situations like this is the question.
I don't know. Dispel and land number 5 is pretty attractive here, but he can also try to play this sort of game where he clocks Patrick, forces Patrick to act first, and then picks the fight when Patrick has less mana available.
Oh, no attempted Splinter Twin, just an attack for 3. Dickmann going to go down to 11.
This feels like the type of game where you can see the value of Tarmogoyf in the matchup. Patrick wants to get something into play to block, but he doesn't want to spend a lot of mana because he's at risk of getting killed at a moment's notice. So Tarmogoyf is cheap, much in the way the Tassiger is, and can effectively shore this game up.
Copy of Snapcaster Mage. He's going to flashback copy of Serum Visions. Kind of a loud declaration that he needs some help.
Well, it's a display of strength in some respects because Patrick has a Roast in the graveyard that he can flash back on the Deceiver Exarch. By getting back Serum Visions, he's sort of saying, I'm not that worried about getting killed right now. If you want to go for Twin, that's fine. I'm just looking to cantrip.
Remand is going to be targeted by Dispel. So we're having a fight all over a Serum Visions here. Rather telling.
And this is where the stacks get pretty complicated here. John has the option of, you know, fighting back with his own cheap counter. He can also just remand his own remand if he wants to.
Serum Vision is going to resolve now. Patrick will draw. Does have a copy of Negate in hand, by the way. He'll scry too. In a perfect world, Dickmann will be able to start actually activating the Desolate Lighthouse, get deeper into his deck, find some more action, discard the useless cards in hand. See if he ever is able to get to that point. Running with 5 lands in play. Snapcaster Mage, Deceiver Exarch. He'll take a draw step. I think it may have been an Inquisition of Kozilek, maybe a Thoughtseize. Either way, it's a discard spell, and it is an Inquisition.
Well, Inquisition's an awesome draw here because it allows you to see what's going on with Patrick's hand, and if he's light on interaction, he can take and go for the kill, or try to set up next turn with Dispel backup.
Gonna show you the grip. A Nature's Claim, a Negate, a Tarmogoyf, and a Dispel. So a pretty resilient hand here to the Splinter Twin. We'll see what Runyon wants to select in this situation. He'll write down the contents of the hand, yet again, Dispel, Nature's Claim, Negate, and Tarmogoyf. And he'll select any of those cards as they all meet the necessary casting cost for Inquisition of Kozilek.
What's nice here from John's side of the table is he's not going to get blown out if he goes for Splinter Twin. He's going to look at a 1-for-1 trade, so he can sort of try to push through it the hard way, which is cast Splinter Twins, force Patrick to respond by countering the Splinter Twins until he runs out of counters.
Let's see what's next here for John. He'll go with Roast to clear out that Snapcaster Mage. He wants to be able to keep attacking.
This is great. I love taking the Tarmogoyf here and just saying, all right, I'm gonna beat you up on the board.
Yep.
And if you ever tap way too low or my hand improves, well, I've got Splinter Twin at the ready to pair with my Deceiver XR.
See if Runyon actually wants to dispel the negate here. This could be a little interesting. Yeah, sacrifice blue to Delta at this point.
I like John trading 1-for-1 with the counter spells as much as he possibly can because he's the one that's tight on mana. And the way that you can lessen the blow of being tight on mana is just run your opponent out of cards. Make it so the extra mana doesn't do anything.
I also like John being kind of aggressive in these exchanges too, because he's tight on mana, but also because he's ahead.
Yeah.
So there's nothing for him to fear about, oh, I could just die all of a sudden. It's like, no, actually, you're the one that's in the position to just kill Patrick all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I think with the way that he's playing the game, I think Patrick probably knows that, but there's not a lot he can do about that. So I like the aggressive slant to things here from Runyon. There's your man targeting the roast. Save it for later and draw a card. Picked up a copy of Snapcaster Mage. Here come the beatdowns. Snapcaster Mage going to trade.
So this is, so far I've really liked what John has done. This is going to be my first critique.
Okay.
I would have preferred for him not to attack with the Snapcaster Mage that turn. You're
Just
getting
hang
the
back.
roast back in your hand. Patrick has no other creatures in play and a Desolate Lighthouse. So by doing this, you instead of being able to roast next turn and start attacking for 3, you're only attacking for 1, and Patrick can use Desolate Lighthouse to improve his hand, discard creatures that aren't helpful in face of the roast, and if he finds an answer for a Deceiver Exarch, now all of a sudden, there's nothing going on in play except your opponent has a Desolate Lighthouse. I think John did a lot of very good work to set himself up to be just attacking Patrick to death and force him to find an answer. Now Patrick has a lot more breathing space because of the Snapcaster Mage trade.
There's Snapcaster Mage. Here's Counterflux. No fighting that one. Seems though Patrick is pretty well positioned for the mirror match with how much counter magic he has and effects like Nature's Claim, who's just never able to get out on the front foot with Tarmogoyf.
Yeah. John's still in a solid position.
I think John is in great position this game. Patrick's life total is very high. There's not really much of a concern to be had here. Looks like both players confirming the life totals are correct at this point. 13-9 in favor of Runyon as we head back Dickmann's way. He has not had the opportunity to activate a lighthouse just yet. There's a Serum Visions that allow him to cantrip. Take a draw. Little scry action here. Not another Serum Visions, which means a little more scry action. Looks like he's going to split the difference, one on top, one on bottom. Pass the turn back. Perhaps Runyon has some end of turn effects. Looks like he does in Deceiver Exarch. So he will deploy that. Does Dickmann have something to do? Nope, just gonna tap the Desolate Lighthouse, pass the turn back. Going Runyon's way. Remand in hand, dispel, Splinter Twin, but still not looking to go for Splinter Twin. Just an attack here for 2, and I still like not going for it.
Well, there's no reason to. He knows that, you know, with Nature's Claim, it's no good right now.
Yeah.
And you can potentially get into a better spot when you have more mana. You can win the counter battle. And as things stand, Patrick has to act here. He's at 7. He's getting hit for 2 a turn.
There's a Snapcaster Mage. Now Runyon still has that dispel for protection. But it looks like he's just trying to find the best spot to use it, and he feels as though not forcing through Splinter Twin is the best way. This will be a remand targeting the roast. Looks like Dispel might go after the Remand. It will. These two guys are fighting over these cheap spells.
It's a little ugly here, but Patrick is falling pretty low, and even random bolts might finish him off soon. So he's got to win the fight over these Exarchs, and then with something in play, all of a sudden, then he's the one who's ahead.
Yeah,
he has to respond to him.
Find something like a Tarmogoyf, who knows what happens. Rose will resolve. John still not willing to cast that Dispel. He is holding that tight.
Well, now with Dickmann so low on mana and Dispel in hand for Nature's Claim, John may just go for the kill.
Yeah, you've got it pegged. That's what it looks like exactly he's going to do. There is Splinter Twin. There's Nature's Claim. Here's Dispel. It's a concession. A really well played game there by John Runyon. He's going to win game number 2 against Patrick Dickmann. Grixis Twin and Teamer Twin. They've got about 12 minutes for game number 3.
Very well navigated. You can see that it's weird in the post-board games that the life total does matter. It's not just these 2 combo decks going infinite. And the chip shots with Deceiver, Exarch, Pestermite, Snapcaster Mage, Vendilion Click if available, it adds up.
Sideboards is where we're going to go. These players will probably shuffle up pretty quickly. Teamer Twin's going to be on the play here for Patrick Dickmann. I know you've got that sideboard in front of you, so what do we see?
Keranos, God of Storms, 2 copies of Thrag Tusk, a Desolate Lighthouse, a Dispel, a Negate, a Counterflux, 2 copies of Pyroclasm, 2 copies of Ancient Grudge, Nature's Claim, Spellskite, Roast is a Staticaster. I think we saw most of what's really going on there. We saw the additional counter spells, the Desolate Lighthouse, the Roast, the Nature's Claim, and I'm assuming the Spellskite as well.
On the other side of things here for Grixis Twin, we got a Dispel, a Grimlothomancer, a Negate, and a Spellskite. A Jace Architect of Thought, a Keranos, God of Storms, a Worm Coil Engine, a Tasker of the Golden Fang, and a Roast. Those are all one-ofs to go along with 2 Kolagon's Commands, 2 Anger of the Gods, and you guessed it, 2 Blood Moons.
Well, you know, I think here you're going to see the removal, the cheap threat like Tasker come in. And then the counter spells Dispel, Negate, Spellskite, and so forth. I don't think this is the kind of matchup where you're converting into a Jace Architect of Thought, Keranos control deck. Just too hard to tap out in the face of negates and the threat of getting kill instant speed, Cryptic Command, and so forth. But the cheap stuff that interacts favorably, it's all very powerful.
Got some updates here on Twitter from a couple of players. Looks like Kenji Ayashira, that's Numa the Nummy, of course. He is 3-2-1 in this tournament. Dead, at least it sounds good. Hashtag GPCharlotte. Tough tournament for him. Looks like maybe Luis Scott Vargas is out of the tournament as well. Jeez.
Unable to recover from his early loss against the Calculator.
Adrian Sullivan, who's on his quest for platinum. He just lost to Dredge Vine, moves him down to 4-2.
Now, Adrian, for those of you who were asking about pure control decks, I was watching Adrian play some games for fun against Matt Sperling between rounds. I think we recorded a deck tech with him. You're going to want to stay tuned for that one. If you're interested in grinding people down, little Dragon Lord Ojutai action.
Oh, boy.
Adrian's got the deck for you.
You know, Adrian loves a control deck. That's nothing new. Loves blue-black control. That's how he was able to top 8 the Pro Tour, make the semifinals of that tournament. Oliver Tomiko, player that we saw win an Open Series event a little earlier this year, a youngster, I believe only 14 years old.
Sharp, though. Sharp.
Very good. Very, very good Magic player. He is 5-1. Apparently, he just won on turn 2. So I think we know what he's playing this weekend. Sounds like an Amulet Bloom deck to me. And then Brian Kibler, when your opponent hits Tron at turn 3 both games and finds Eye of Ugin through an Aven Mind Sensor, you know it's not your day. Doesn't sound like Brian won that match.
No, probably not.
Both these players are going to take a look at their opening hands, John Runyon and Patrick Dickmann. Again, both of them are 5-0. I said 12 minutes left to play in their match. Let's make it about 8. These players took some time shuffling. There's nothing quick about this thing either, so might have a draw on the way. We'll see. Misty Rainforest to start things here for Patrick. See what John has on his first turn.
The game can go on for a very long time because both players are sort of in a holding pattern, afraid of what the other person can do. And setting aside the number of turns, the games are also pretty complicated, even when there's nothing in play. And so time definitely a concern here. And day ones of Grand Prix, a draw is a loss.
Yep.
It's the exact same thing. 7 or 2 or better required to make the second day of competition.
Serum Visions looks to have put both cards on the bottom there for Runyon after he drew. Dickmann did search up a Steam Vents off Misty Rainforest. We'll see what his second turn brings. It's a Misty Rainforest. No pass the turn back to Runyon yet again. Runyon will draw. There is a Sulphur Falls. All right, here's a Spellskite. A little bit of protection against the twin combo.
Good for pushing your combo through, good at preventing the other person from doing theirs.
Patrick looks like he may have a response here. Going to start by sacrificing a Misty Rainforest, it appears. We'll see if Spellskite does resolve. That one is fairly annoying to play against.
Yeah.
You know, one thing it actually does in this matchup now too that wasn't a thing before is it slows down Roast.
Sure.
Well, it can take the hit. With Runyon returning it to his hand, we have a remand on the way, so there that is. Dickmann will draw a card from remand. We're gonna head back his way. So there's a Scalding Tarn, just a passing of the turn. Deceiver Exarch in hand here for John. We know about the Spellskite. See what land he wants to play here. Steam Vents is an option. He'll go with Watery Grave untapped. So he'll have to take 2, go down to 18. Pass that turn back. Dickmann going to sacrifice his Scalding Tarn. So you see both players just really trying to get land established at this point. That's simply how these Twin Mirrors go.
Yeah, because of the nature of the counter spells and the interaction is such that land drops are really, really important for you able to win the stacks, and why it's so important for Patrick to have counterflux in his sideboard. It's something that gives you some staying power even if you fall behind on mana. You can stop it at any time.
Electrolyze is going upstairs. Running going to go down to 16.
Even the best counter spells are at risk of either not being mana efficient enough or being situational and not being able to counter the right thing. Counterflux is neither, and that's a very potent weapon in this matchup.
While Dickmann is tapped out, Runyon going to take the opportunity to slide into Deceiver Exarch, untap his Sulphur Falls, and now pass the turn back. And of course, that Sulphur Falls can represent a card like Spell Pierce, Spell Snare, or Dispel. There's a Desolate Lighthouse and passing the turn back. That's an important fourth land there, by the way.
A lot of the sense of, who's ahead in the matchup to me feels like who is the burden on to do something first? John getting a Deceiver Exarch in play, it's slow, but it kind of puts the burden on Patrick. Now it's different. Desolate Lighthouse improving Patrick's hand is more significant than the 1 point of power that John has in play on the other side.
Here's Spellskite. We'll see if that does resolve. John with a lot of cards in his hand. It'll be a Spell Snare there from Dickmann. So there goes the Spellskite. A snare for this tournament looks really good every time we've seen it. And there's a copy of Counterflux.
I believe that is a
Staticaster. Excuse me. I was a little surprised.
No, it's really nice of the art people to make the two blue-red cards have essentially the same artwork. But no, that is a Staticaster.
Excuse me. My apologies there.
And now Patrick is in a really solid control position here. He doesn't have to worry about Pastor Mage or Snapcaster Mage. He can block the Deceiver Exarch, and he has the Desolate Lighthouse that's going to force John to move first.
Looks like Roast might be going after this at Staticaster. If you're roasting that means you're not roasting a Tarmogoyf.
Yep, Patrick does not mind that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm unhappy with that exchange if I'm Patrick. There's a Steam Vents that's going to enter the battlefield untapped. You'll get a Lighthouse activation here, so Patrick will draw and discard. There's a Scalding Tarn. Now here's another Exarch. That'll tap the Lighthouse, pass the turn back.
Yeah, John wants to make Patrick use the Lighthouse preemptively there. since he can't really cut Patrick off of a color of mana.
We've seen him tap that a couple of times, and I think that's the right play.
Yeah. If you can cut Patrick off a color of mana, that's great. Otherwise, make him choose up front whether or not he wants to use the Lighthouse.
Pluto Delta's the land. Now here's a Snapcaster Mage from Patrick. Maybe try to force a little bit of action here. So Runyon's going to take a look at the graveyard, see what's over there. Patrick's going to sacrifice a fetch land. He's down to 10. The clock's certainly not on either one of these players' side. It looks like Patrick's probably going to flash back and electrolyze, but we'll see as he searches up a basic mountain. Runyon going to sacrifice his polluted Delta.
And I imagine we're going to see a remand here momentarily.
If there's an attempt at electrolyze. Don't know a lot about John Runyon, but I like the way he's played these games so far.
Yeah, I think he's got a very solid grasp of the matchup. He seems to be, aware that he has to get stuff into play and needs to be the one attacking against the Desolate Lighthouse. I think he's done a very nice job of navigating the stacks.
The Twin Mirror can be very uncomfortable if you haven't played very much of it.
Yeah.
Dickmann will draw. Electrolyze again was countered by Remand. Snapcaster Mage is going to come in the red zone. It's 11 to 10 in favor of Runyon. Dickmann will just pass the turn back. Runyon will take a draw. Picked up a copy of Pluto Delta. A couple of lands over there for John. Looks like a Snapcaster Mage and a Serum Visions. Vision's not a bad place to start. So he'll draw a card, of course. Another copy of Snapcaster Mage, and then take a look at the next two. Gonna split the difference, one on top, one on bottom. See how many Exarchs he wants to attack with. Looks like just one this time. You gotta slow down a touch.
Talk about splitting the difference.
Yeah, no kidding. There's a land and steam fence that'll enter the battlefield tapped. There's a Lighthouse activation. A little draw discard action there from Patrick, and now he'll take a draw step. There's the Misty Rainforest. No attacks to be had because that 1/4 on defense. Runyon will take a draw step. Picked up a copy of Kolagon's commands. Now he's got that Kolagon command. Snapcaster Mage thing starting to get working.
A lot of mana to work with as well.
Yeah. Just an attack for 1. Dickmann going to go down to 8. Another Lighthouse activation. Lightning Bolt is a card that Patrick has just found. That's a card he's going to discard. Not interested in that. Now he'll sacrifice the Misty Rainforest too. Looks like that is going to be time in the round. We will get confirmation on that. Dickmann will take a draw. All I can do is pass the turn back. Still no attacks to be had. John looks like he's going to play Kolagon's command. We'll see what Moti wants to choose here.
I can't imagine we're going for discard at this point.
I would be surprised, I think. Maybe a little shock rebuy action if there's something to rebuy down there. Turn 0 here. Kolagon's command gonna do a little rebuy action. So this will be turn number 1 here. Runyon will have 1, 3, and 5. Dickmann will have 2 and 4. Pluto Delta, the land of choice. Spellskite is what was returned, from Kolagon's command. Attack for 2. A little more aggressive slant here. He's almost splitting the difference previously.
He's got it within striking distance. Got some Snapcasters, a Kolagon's command, the graveyard.
Here's a Snapcaster Mage for Patrick. It's interesting. There's a world of difference here when Patrick has a Tarmogoyf and when he doesn't. If he had a Tarmogoyf, he could be bashing on in and doing a bunch of different stuff, but as it stands, these Snapcaster Mages, they obviously don't line up very well against 1/4s.
Yeah. I don't actually know how much of the combo Patrick really has left in his deck at all. We haven't seen combo pieces drawn, and we've been watching 2 pretty protracted games thus far.
Yeah. It's kind of what makes Twin such an interesting deck, is that everyone seems to play a little bit different about how they want to sideboard in the Twin mirror and outside of it. There's a double block. Deceiver X are going to bite the dust, but 1 will come through. Dickmann's going to go down to 4. Let's see what the follow-up is here for Runyon. Could just be that simple spell skite he just returned. Looks like it is. Again, for Runyon, a couple copies of Snapcaster Mage in his hand and then a Polluted Delta. There's a Snapcaster Mage from Patrick. I believe this might be in response to the spell skite. So we're going to build a bit of a stack here.
Yeah, this is where it gets tricky. Again, a lot of these stacks get very complicated to navigate.
It's going to be Spell Snare. And Runyon says, well, I have a response. I have Snapcaster Mage of my own. Does Patrick have a response to this? We'll see. Here's 2 mana. It's going to be Remand, targeting Spell Snare most likely. So one heck of a stack here. Actually, Remand's going to target Spell Skite, which means Spell Snare's not going to counter anything. Remand, of course, will draw a card. And now Runyon's going to sacrifice his Polluted Delta, as it appears, so that he can redeploy his Spell Skite.
So John seems pretty committed to trying to use Remand for one of 2 things, and both players, honestly. Countering spells on flashback.
Okay.
Or using it to get your own spell back to your hand in spots where it doesn't look like you can win the counter war, but you can at least draw a card and try again next turn for whatever it is you were trying to resolve.
And given how his mana's lined up, he can actually try again this turn with the Spell Skite.
No one's really remanding for value.
Yeah.
No one's saying, oh, Deceiver X okay, I'll remand it because I got 2 mana left over. That doesn't seem to really be happening here in the post-board games.
The Remand certainly seem to have purpose.
Yeah.
There's a Lightning Bolt to take care of Snapcaster Mage with Spell Skite on the stack. Turn number 2. That goes to Patrick Dickmann. Can he do anything to try to win this game? He might just be trying to stave off elimination here.
I honestly think that Patrick has navigated himself into a winning position. I don't think he's going to be... if the game were to go on and conclude by damage or combo, I don't think he's going to have enough time. And with 2 turns left here, it's going to be really hard for him to muster a kill. But I really like the way he's navigated this game.
He'd have to work his way through Spell Skite. He does have a Desolate Lighthouse to work his way through the bad draws that he has.
Yeah.
And I guess with John at 10, this isn't impossible.
John took a lot of damage off of his lands.
Yeah.
He took 1 Snapcaster Mage hit earlier on the game.
It's going to block once. Patrick has shown he has Lightning Bolts in his deck. There's a Ghost Quarter. Here's a Tarmogoyf. Things getting a little bit more interesting in this particular game. Patrick looks like with only 2 cards in his hand, so we go Runyon's way. That's turn number 3 of extra turns.
Well, Patrick has now theoretically set up a lethal Cryptic Command next turn.
Yep.
Now, who knows if it resolves?
Yes.
But he's got 8 points of power in play against an opponent who's at 8. I was assuming 8 points of power.
It's
standard Goyf size.
It is safe to assume Tarmogoyf is a 4-5, I think, in almost every instance in Modern. And John's got to tread a little lightly here. He's got to walk this weird balancing act of, I can probably win, and I could actually probably lose. I'd rather win than get a draw, obviously.
Right.
And the worst outcome here is just a straight up loss.
Right. Well, from a kind of a game theory standpoint, let's say John can 100% draw the game, by playing one way, or win half the time and lose half the time playing the other way. He's way better doing the second thing, because given that a loss is the same thing as a draw at day one of a Grand Prix, you're much better served going 1-1 in 2 matches than 0-0-2.
Yeah.
I don't know if that line of play exists on either side, but John is incentivized to be a little bit aggressive here if he can be. Because draws are really bad day one.
They are pretty poor, yes. Here's 2 mana. Snappy. Looks like that's going to resolve. Maybe now it's time for Kolaghan's Command. Who knows what he's going to return. Feels like Kolaghan's Command. Yep. See what the modes are. This is a concern here for Dickmann.
Yep. And remember, John now has the option of just removing one of the Snapcaster Mage and preventing Patrick from cobbling together a lethal attack next turn on board.
I'm going to do a little return a creature 2 damage action. I imagine, return Snapcaster Mage, kill Snapcaster Mage.
Remember, John still gets the 5th turn here. This is not his last shot at it.
Excuse me, it looks like he might be going upstairs. Either way, Kolaghan's Command is now exiled. Here is Snapcaster Mage. Going to target Roast. Roast is going to look to kill Tarmogoyf. Here's a Snapcaster Mage from Patrick. He's responding very quickly. He's been very patient in this whole exchange. There's Remand. We'll draw a card. And if he finds Cryptic Command, this game is over.
Oh,
he got it.
Wow.
Patrick, on his last turn of the game, has Cryptic Command to get the job done. And he's going to win this match here over John Runyon on the last turn of extra turns. The Teamer Twin Master is at it again. You can tell he's pumped up about that one. He moves on to 6-0.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
As it oftentimes is when he's playing that deck.
That game looked at various points there from John's side like I'm likely to win, and worst case scenario is a draw. Patrick did a great job of getting in the chip shot so he